Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Omega Insight. Tonight's topic, I wanted to talk about the development or checking our ego. How do we develop a healthy ego and maintain it? Developing a healthy ego is much like a balancing act. Too much emphasis on one side or the other, and obviously you're out of balance, and the ego suffers. When our ego suffers, we suffer, and our relationships suffer. A healthy ego, this drives us or gives us confidence to make the choices that we make. It helps us strive towards the life that we dream of. An unhealthy ego, this can show up in one or two ways. It could be too much ego or not enough of an ego. When we have too much of an ego, I'm sure most of us know this, it leads us to arrogance and being judgmental and condescending. It's driven by greed or lust or a false sense of identity. We think we're more important than we actually are. Not enough of an ego. This can lead us towards depression or loneliness, despair. This is driven by illogical comparisons, negative environments, and even tragedy. The illogical comparisons, the click, post, click, post, click, post, and how many likes do I get? And we're comparing ourselves to people who are using filters and they don't even look normal, or compare ourselves to individuals that we're not even in the same arena. So that could be unhealthy. And of course, negative environments, the constant, you're not good enough, you're never going to make it, berating, and then tragedy can also lead us towards an unhealthy, on the not enough of an ego. So, unhealthy egos, whether it's too much or not enough, this leads us to the thought form of separatism. Either we're better than everyone else or we're not, or worse than everyone else. A healthy ego feeds the thought form of universality. This is where all one. That's the benefits of having a healthy ego. Now, it's important to keep our egos in check. As a matter of fact, Torquem Saradarium suggested doing this. His 12 practical rules, and the thing that we talk about, this should be done daily. Number 9 in his 12 practical rules, he states, monitor yourself to see if you're feeding your ego and your vanity, and then stop it. And number 10 is do not impose or force your opinions and desires on others. So these are two steps that practical rules that Torquem Saradarium would teach. The idea that, always monitor, 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 check in, check in, check in. In Torquem's book, he has a book called Psyche and Psychism. He states that in order to combat our ego or to help keep it in check, there's 3 qualities that we should develop: humility, cooperation, and gratitude. Naturally, humility. This gives us the opportunity to recognize where we stand in the universe. There's always people behind us and always people ahead of us. Cooperation, this helps us to develop a group consciousness where we switch from the me to we identity. And then, of course, gratitude, that helps us develop the ability to recognize true values. Now, when it comes to keeping our ego in check, there are several things that I do. There's 4 things that I do to help me keep my ego in check. And they're very simple. Everyone can do these things. The first is for me to recognize people in my lifetime who've made a tremendous contribution into humanity. This connects us to the idea of humility. Now, I go with my lifetime because I can go throughout history and pick hundreds of people that have made great contributions. But if I'm wanting to put my ego in check, I think it's great if I pick people that I know that have existed since I've been on this planet, people who I'm sharing the planet with. And that's the idea, my personal criteria. And these could be people that, like Martin Luther King, made a contribution. Helen Keller is another individual. Bill Gates in my lifetime, Stephen Hawking's, Princess Diana, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela. Again, these are people that I've existed with, I've shared this planet with, and I think, oh my gosh, what tremendous contributions these individuals have had. And then, and not so much to compare, but to compare, I also will go with ordinary people, people that things happened to them and they ended up making a contribution, like Rosa Parks. I'm done. I'm not giving up my seat anymore. That was an ordinary individual who sparked a movement or helps spark a movement. Or individuals like Tom Beamer, who was on that last flight. Him and the rest of the passengers fought back the terrorists and potentially how many lives they saved by fighting back so that the plane didn't crash into whatever destination it was going to. Uh, Candy Lightner, many people may not know her. She's the one who started Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Up until that point, there was no consequences for drunk driving, and she started it. And today, there's like huge amount of consequences for people who do drunk driving and kill innocent individuals. Then, of course, J.K. Rowling. Everyone knows her story, beautiful story, but she sparked a renewed interest in reading. That was wonderful, and all of that came from her tragedy. Ryan White, those of you who may not know him, he was a teenager who got through a blood transfusion, got AIDS. And so he actually sparked the awareness of AIDS. It wasn't a homophobic disease. It was a blood disease. Like he actually sparked the awareness of that. Died when he was 18 years old. Um, Lily Ledbetter, whom most people may not know her, she was the first voice to speak out and actually sued her company for equality amongst men and women, um, equal pay. And then, of course, along the same lines for equal education for women was, I'm going to mess up her name, I apologize, but it's Mahala Yousafzai, I believe her last name is, attacked by the Taliban, just attacked, shot, and yet still refuses to hide in fear. She speaks up for equality for women education, especially in the countries where women's education is suppressed. So these are ordinary individuals who had events that happened to them and they made a change. I think it's important for me to recognize that and compare myself to that. Am I doing that? By doing this, it's not to put me down or make me feel depressed, but to put me in check. Like there are people way ahead of me who've done wonderful contributions. That's globally. And then the second thing I do is I recognize the people who've actually made an impact in me personally, but people who I've actually had personal interaction with and who've helped mold the person that I've become, so that I don't always think it's all about me. No, these people are the ones who made the contributions. Art Schaefer taught me about unconditional love and loving just because I can. I don't have to be a blood relative to feel a family sense. George Adair, obviously, who launched my entire career life in philosophy and ageless wisdom teachings and Omega. Linda Kaiser, another individual who really changed my life. So I look at those individuals and with great appreciation and gratitude that I crossed paths with them. I honestly could say I wouldn't be here who I am today if it wasn't for them, these individuals in my life. So by doing that, by those two acts of recognizing people who have done tremendous, that gives me humility, tremendous contributions brings humility to me. And then people who've made a contribution to me, that gives me the sense of gratitude. And then after I've done that, so those are the people who are great, then I think of the people who I've made a contribution to, recognizing all the people that I've helped along their path. And honestly, I can't think specifically. There are some people that I think specifically, but this gives me the concept of cooperation. I'm making a contribution. It's not me, it's about the we. And through art, all the people that I learned how to love children who aren't mine, but love them as if they were. The ones that I've taken in, of course, with George, all of the people that I've assisted with Omega. I can't even count. and I don't even know. And I'm grateful. I don't want to know the amount of people. I'm just grateful I have the opportunity to do it through Linda Kaiser. All of my LMT, licensed massage therapist, and all of the healing that I've gone through. Of course, then, the executive coaching that I've done, my life coaching, anything that I've made a contribution to the amount of kids that I've taken out on teen programs. Um, Again, so that just helps me remind myself, okay, I may not be these wonderful Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks people, but I've also made the contribution in my way, in my universe, to individuals that I've crossed path with. Not to have a big old ego, but to recognize, okay, it's come to me, I passed it on. And then, so those are the things, those are the two things, actually, three things. It's so far, it's the three things that people recognizing individuals, recognizing great individuals, personal individuals, and then the contribution that I've personally made. And then the last thing I do is so important: ask for feedback. By asking for feedback, I'm recognizing, hey, I want to strive to be a better individual. Now it's hard here because there are people who just can't wait to give you feedback, uh, and you have to take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And then there's the people who get stuck in the don't be stuck in the praise and blame. We love to hear the praise about us. Oh, look how wonderful I am. Take that with a grain of salt as well. There's always going to be people who praise us, and there's always going to be people who blame us. So the idea is not to put too much stock into the praise and blame. So don't take things personal. When I say ask for feedback, I mean go to the people that you know are going to give you clear feedback, not people who have an agenda, not people who want to fix you, not people who want to tell you how it is, but people who be honest with you and say, yeah, I've seen you do this, and yeah, this probably wasn't the best thing to say. And that's the type of feedback that I search for. It's always striving for a better individual, to be a better individual. Um, Many years with the workshops that we've done and the classrooms that we've done, George and I would often sit after a program was over, and I'd ask for feedback: what worked, what didn't work. And throughout the weekend, what we had the agreement during the program, we never gave feedback during the program because you're in the program and you're in a zone, you want to, but we take notes. And then at the end of the program, we'd sit down and say, okay, what worked, what didn't work. And I would often do this with the staff. We'd have a closing on a Sunday night after everyone left and before we started packing up, or after, but mostly before. We just take a moment and sit and say, hey, here's the things that have worked, here's that. Or sometimes I'd write it up, or they would write it to me and we'd send it email. It's very, very helpful to have the feedback. Again, take it with a grain of salt and recognize the people who are giving the feedback. Thank you for giving me the feedback. And also recognizing the ones that they don't really want to give you feedback. They want to tell you how it is and feed their ego by giving you feedback. So, again, the whole goal is to keep balance. We're searching for balance of our ego. Unfortunately, ego's taken such a bad rap, and ego is very positive and can be very helpful in our lives as long as it's balanced. So, thanks for letting me take you through this little journey on checking your ego. I hope that you have some fun this week checking your ego, making sure that it's balanced, not too much one way or the other, but that you have a good balanced ego. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy your evening this weekend. And as always, thank you for keeping the spirit of Omega alive. Until we next speak. Bye now.